Lewis, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
So we are in New York. We're in your backyard.
Yes, we are.
Born and raised here.
Born and raised. Grew up on 88th and 1st. Haven't really moved far away from that.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, dude, first of all, I love you. And, you know, you've helped me tremendously so far with my podcast. And, you know, for people watching this, Kevin and I met 13 years ago, 12 years ago, 2012. Yeah, 2013. That's right. We were both in a intensive outpatient program together. It was like the first time that was really the first time I was ever like getting introduced to like sobriety. Maybe I have a drug problem. Maybe I should go to an AA meeting, which I did not want to go to. But yeah, that's where you and I met. And, you know, we've obviously kept in touch here and there over the years, but I'd say really the last couple months, we've really locked in together. And, you know, I've gotten to know you a lot better, and you're as real as they come. So I appreciate you having me, and I appreciate all the help and guidance you've given me the last couple months.
Yeah, man. And you know what's crazy? When you are in sobriety with someone and you vibe with someone and you just gel with someone, we established that in 2013. And then it was, you know, you went out, I stayed sober, then I went out, then you stayed sober, and it was kind of back and forth. And we were friends from a distance for a while. And then we saw each other during COVID on Long Island. And then, you know, obviously now, which is, we have a tremendous amount of respect for one another. You know, anyone, you know, in the rooms, you get it, that brotherhood or sisterhood or just that camaraderie that we have together in sobriety is just, it's special. It's something very special. And I've gotten to know your family and, you know, vice versa. So it's a beautiful thing. And here we are today with families now. Like we didn't have that in 2013.
I know, dude, it's crazy. And like to kind of like touch on like what you were just saying about you were sober, then I was sober, then you weren't, and I wasn't, and the back and forth. Like, I think that, you know, that's most of the time, that's the case, right? For people who are sober for a long period of time, they've gone in and out a couple of times. And as I call it, they had to do some more scientific research before finally like surrendering and kind of coming to terms with the fact that like, I can't drink or do drugs, or I can't gamble, or, you know, I have an eating disorder, or I have a sex addiction, like whatever the case may be. But, dude, in 2013, I was like 19 years old, and I'd gotten pulled out of college for Xanax abuse. And, you know, in high school, growing up as a kid, I was constantly in trouble, but it was never drugs and alcohol. And even in high school, I like smoked weed. I didn't drink, but I liked to smoke weed because I wouldn't be hungover, and I was an athlete. So sports kind of kept me together. But I definitely was an alcoholic before I was actually an alcoholic or addict, if that makes sense. Like the behaviors of defiance, entitlement, arrogance, all of these things, like those were prevalent way before I ever took a drink or drug. And the drink or drug, when I started, bro, it was like the relief from those feelings of inadequacy and like all the other shit that I was using. Like, you know, I was acting out originally because of those feelings, and then the drinking and the drugs came, and I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, like relief, bro. Like it was like, okay, like I don't care what anyone thinks. Like it was just bliss in this sick, dark way. And
did you experience that chatter in your head, and then once you took that first drink or drug, it just kind of quieted? It like just silenced the noise and the chaos going on in your head.
Yeah. And from when I got to college, I pledged in a fraternity, and somebody was like, this kid I was pledging with was like, yo, you ever tried a Xanax before? I'm like, no, I've never done pills, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, dude, just try it. Like it'll edge it'll take some of the edge off. And we were pledging and, you know, it was rough. We were drinking every night and yada, yada, yada. And so I was like, all right, you know, screw it. Let me try it. And I tried a half a Xanax and I loved it, bro. I loved it. I was so chill, so calm. Like it was that relief. It was that relief that a lot of addicts and alcoholics feel the first time they try a substance that they really enjoy. And, you know, I'd say growing up, the trouble was, you know, typical, just problem child behavior, fighting, cutting class, throwing shit out of the school bus window. You know, nothing that was like, oh my God, this kid's going to turn out to be an alcoholic or drug addict. But the interesting thing is, my dad's side of the family is all alcoholics. My dad's dad was a compulsive gambler that gambled away the house 3 times growing up. I lost my dad's sister during COVID to an accidental overdose at, you know, 70 years old, basically. And my dad has 2 other sisters, and one of them is an alcoholic who will not get sober. And the other one who's my godmother. She's like, you know, she's kind of the glue that has kind of kept it all together. But that gene runs in my lineage, you know, and it was never really spoken about in my house. You know, it was like, don't drink and don't smoke pot, don't do drugs. It's bad for you. You need to go to college and do well in school and then get a job. And, you know, the typical, like my family's Italian, both grew up in like old school Italian homes.
This show is sponsored by Open Recovery Addiction Help. Whether you're newly sober, in long-term sobriety, or even maybe looking to make a change in your life, Open Recovery offers 24/7 support right from your phone. It's anonymous and packed with tools to help you stay connected, stay accountable, and build the life you deserve. Download the Open Recovery Addiction Help app today and take the next step in your recovery journey.
So, you know, for me, I was never sat down, you know, and my father never sat me down and said, hey, listen, like, you know, our family has this gene and it's an addiction and we've struggled and this and that. And like, just keep an eye out. Like, I know you're going to college or I know you're experimenting, but like, this is in us and you need to like keep an eye out for it. It was just always, you don't do this because drugs are bad. Right. And I really struggled for a long time, bro. I struggled from 18 years old until I was 28, you know, and I had sobriety from 22 to 25. And then I was kind of bouncing in and out from 25 to 28. And then 28, I really surrendered. And for my family and friends around me, they were like, yo, like, thank God, finally, you know, this is the longest I've ever had sober. And people just don't understand how hard it is to be sober. I don't care what age it is. Obviously, I think personally, in my experience, it's harder to be sober when you're young.
100%.
Because you don't have the sobriety to be sober. Like it comes from within. It comes from the person wanting to be like, or you know, or saying, I'm done.
Yeah, hitting a bottom,
enough.
I'm done.
I'm done. Like
Yep.
I've seen enough. Like, okay, like I surrender, you know, but in that process to get to that point, some people's process is longer than others. And mine was fairly long of a lot of scientific
research.
Yeah. And you know, bro, I almost lost my life. I've almost been to jail. I've had some very close calls. And, you know, a friend had reached out to me a couple of weeks ago and she's saying that her son who's 25, has a drug problem. He refuses to get sober. He goes to meetings, but he doesn't really relate. And I just said to her, I'm like, hey, as painful as this might be to hear, he has to go through this process. He may have to drink again. He may have to end up in the hospital. He may have to end up being arrested. Like, for certain people like myself, like that was the only way I was getting in here, bro. It's the only way. It was the only way I was going to stop gambling was if it got really fucking bad.
Mm-hmm. And then even worse after that.
Dude.
It had to keep that trap. There's always a trap door, and your bottom can go lower and lower and lower, and then the yets. But that hasn't happened to me yet.
Correct.
And then those started to come true.
Correct. And I think, for me personally, because I grew up with two loving parents. They've been together for, they'll probably kill me for saying this, but for 400 years. They, met when dinosaurs were roaming the earth. And, we grew up in a fairly stable household in the sense of like, it was loving, it was supportive. My parents both worked a lot. And, we dealt with things as a family. No matter how big or small the problem was, like we dealt with it as a family, and there wasn't a lack of presence of unity in my household growing up. Both my parents are successful, had all the clothes I needed, food was always on the table. My family owns a restaurant in New York City, which is where we're at now, Fresco by Scotto. I came to eat here hundreds of times growing up. My grandparents started it. They worked here. My uncles, my aunts, everyone. So I had a really good life growing up. And people like to, from the outside, look in and say, your mom is so successful. Your mom's a news anchor for, 38 years. Your father's a lawyer. You guys, you grew up in a wealthy household. How could you do these things? And people don't understand addiction, bro. Like I don't wake up one day and say, oh yeah, let me be a fucking drug addict. That's what I want to be, Kev. I crossed that invisible line at a certain point in time, and I had no coping skills, and that's the way it turned out, bro. And I think, for people struggling with addiction or with a family member in addiction, and they're, how could they do this? Or they're so selfish. Like addiction is a selfish disease. I would do anything. Rob, cheat, steal, con, manipulate, you name it, just to get high, bro. And I did. I did many, many times. And, it's cunning, it's baffling, it's powerful. And a lot of people think that because you grew up in a nice household, you shouldn't be an addict or stop acting like an asshole. And it's like, I don't want to be like this. But until I fully surrendered to the program, there was no other way for me to act because I didn't have any other way to act. And, it took a long time, bro. It took 10 years, Kev, of like
back and forth,
and
going
destruction,
out.
Bro.
Yep.
Destruction, chaos, arrests, testifying against an ex-best friend at his murder trial. Like the craziest shit that you could possibly imagine. I've been through, and, it's made me who I am today. It's also solidified in my mind, body, and spirit that there's no other solution for me than to live a life of recovery. And there's no other solution for me other than going to Alcoholics Anonymous, going to Gamblers Anonymous, calling 3, 4, 5 people a day who are in program, right? Either it's AA or it's GA, like speaking to people who understand who I am, right? And it's like, when we talk and we're bullshitting about life, what life is throwing at us right now, the way we talk would be different than the way I would talk to my friend who's not in recovery. And that's what I need, bro. But it took me from 18 to 28 to understand that. And I went through periods of time where when I was sober, getting sober in the beginning, life would get really good for me really quick. And then I would completely disappear from the AA or the GA program because I'm like, oh, like my life's good. I got my own money now. I got my own business now. Everything is great. Fuck this. I don't need God. The first meeting I ever went to, I heard at the end of the meeting, they say like, oh, if you want what we have, you'll go to any lengths to get it. And I remember hearing that, and I came home. I was like probably 18 or 19. My dad, it was my first day meeting. My dad was like, so what'd you think? I remember saying to him, like half joking, but more serious than joking. I was like, yeah, this lady at the end, she was like, she read this part from the book. It says, oh, if you want what we have, you'll go to any lengths that, to get it. And I remember I said to my dad, I'm like, it was perfect because I don't want what they have, so I don't want to go back. And my dad was like, oh, well, maybe you should just, give it another go,
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. And that, at that time I was
thick-headed and young and
snorting 900 milligrams of oxy a day. And I was on probation for a year, and I just gotten off probation, and I was I was on probation, and I was just counting down the days until I could use again. And as soon as that paper was signed, I was out that night drinking, drugging, celebrating that I was off probation. But that year that I had put together in 2015 was, besides the internal struggle, the external picture was beautiful. I was present. I was calm. I wasn't getting in trouble. I wasn't doing shit I wasn't supposed to be doing. But the whole year I was just like, I can't wait to fucking rip a bag, go out, cause chaos. And that, I'd say around 2015 was like really when shit started to go haywire for me.
Before you get into the haywire phase, you mentioned before, when you were younger, before you started drinking and drugging, you were, doing bad shit, right? Getting reactions out of people. So I can relate a lot to that. I remember there was one time I was on a school bus and I threw white out at a black limo just to get a rise out of everyone. Horrible shit. And I was the class clown. I would do these things to get acceptance from others because I had two older brothers. I felt like I was always in their shadows, especially with my parents and even other people, outside of my direct family. So I was always looking for acceptance and validation from others. Where did that come from with you? Was there a sense of, seeking validation from others, through some of the actions that you were taking and being a class clown?
Let me tell you a little story. So recently my mom, my dad, and I started family therapy together. And this family therapist said, what are some of your earliest memories of Lewis that have stuck with you that are like not fond memories? And my dad brought up the story about how I stole this kid's pencil case in second grade. And he was so embarrassed because when I came home, the pencil case was in my bag. And my dad was like, why do you have his pencil case? And whatever. I was like, I stole it. And my dad was like, why would you do that? And my dad was so embarrassed because he was really good friends with the kid's father, whose pencil case that I stole. And my dad had to go to that parent and say, hey, my kid fucking stole your son's pencil case. I don't know why. But dude, I just did shit like that all the time as a kid. And it was a call out for help. It was a call out for attention. My mom, from before I was born until my sophomore year of high school, my mom did the 10 o'clock news. So my mom was out of the house at 3 p.m. She didn't get home till midnight. And I didn't see, my mom would come home from 7 to 8 to eat dinner with my sister and I, but I didn't see her that much, right? Like my mom wasn't picking me up from school. My mom wasn't making my basketball games or whatever during the week. So for me, it was like, I think I was doing a lot of things subconsciously as a young boy to kind of seek attention from my parents. And that's like, it's like those things that like my parents remember, like, I don't even remember that because I've been through so much worse shit. But for my dad to remember something that was like 23 years ago, that seems so minute and small, but affected him so much that like the therapist asked him that. And he was like, oh yeah, well,
Oh, it was top of mind.
It was top of mind, bro. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, wow, like that's really affected him when like between that moment and now, I've been arrested a handful of times. I've been in and out of trouble 100 million more times. I had to testify against someone at a murder trial. I ended up in Cartagena, Colombia for 3 months in a drug psychosis.
Oof.
Like, bro, there's so much other like crazy shit that has happened.
It's higher in the pecking order, but he remembered that one.
Correct. And you know, that's part of the reason why we've embarked on this family therapy journey, because I've caused so much damage. And, you know, my family is old school, and it requires some deep work in the presence of a professional, where everyone feels safe and everyone's feelings can be heard, to kind of get to the bottom of it and forgive one another. Like there's got to be some forgiveness from their side to me, and I have to forgive them for some things. And this has to all be in accordance with me staying sober and me not gambling and me working a program and me continuing to work on my character defects and flipping those defects into character assets, you know, because I can go to family therapy with mom and dad, but if I'm still lying, cheating, stealing, drinking, drugging, gambling, the fuck? What's the fucking point, you know? And no one's family is perfect, bro. No one's family is perfect. I don't care if you're a multi-gazillionaire or you're blue collar and you make just enough money to put food on the table. Every family has their issues, and every family has been affected or touched by addiction in some way, shape, or form. And, you know, for me, I live in New York City, I live in Manhattan, and I walk down the street sometimes, and like you're walking by, like, you know, for me to walk from here to the gym, which is like 10 blocks away, you're probably walking by a couple hundred people, I would say, on a busy day in Manhattan. Sometimes I find myself thinking, how many people did I just walk by that are either in AA, NA, GA, or should be, or have a family member that is in one of those programs? And I would assume the answer is probably 100% or close to it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think from our parents' generation to our generation, the stigma of addiction has gotten further away from these people are problems and they're menaces to a society, to kind of understanding that this is a disease. This is an emotional, mental, and spiritual disease, and there is no cure for it, right? Like, God forbid, if I were to get cancer and the doctor would say to me, hey, you have to take this pill for 5 years, right? Most people get cancer, they go through radiation or chemo, whatever, and then they have to take these pills for 5 years. You're not going to go home and say, maybe I don't have cancer and I don't need to take this medicine, right? But addiction is the only disease that tries to convince you you don't have a disease. It's the only disease, in my opinion, that could cause so many problems, heartache, catastrophes in one's life, and you can only remember the good times you had drinking and drugging. And like, that's why we have to go to meetings every day. And that's why we have to talk to people like us every day, and why we have a sponsor. Because if I get away from that and I start thinking I can go hanging out on the bars or at a casino, my mind will forget all of the nights that I was alone doing drugs, wanting to die, and will only remember the good times at the bar with your friends, drinking and doing drugs in moderation, which there was never any moderation for me when I did drugs. I went from 0 to 100 as soon as I started.
It's a disease of perception.
Dude, it's fucking gnarly, bro.
It's the thinking that gets us in trouble.
And the further, you know, you get away from the drugs and alcohol or the gambling, right? You get away from any of your addictions, you're still left with you. You still have a thinking problem, right? You still have an emotional uneasiness about you. And like for me personally, I'll speak about my experience. Like I'm angry, I'm resentful, sometimes I'm envious, sometimes I feel inadequate, and those are the thoughts and the behaviors that, and let me add dishonesty. I mean, anyone in addiction has a dishonesty problem. Those are the behaviors that get us closer to drinking and using again. It's not, I'm at 2.5 years sober, bro. I'm not going to just wake up tomorrow and decide I'm going to start drinking again. You know what I mean? It's like the prelapse before the relapse. The prelapse comes with like me starting to like lie or cheat or steal or like hang out in places I shouldn't be hanging out in. And then I feel so shitty about myself. And I'm in so much internal emotional pain that I'm like, yo, I can't deal with this anymore. Like I have to drink. Have to.
Mm-hmm.
Have to.
The relapse happens. It starts way before the actual relapse takes place, where you pick up a drink or a drug.
Oh yeah.
And it's how deep you are in the pack of sobriety and recovery. If you have the sober community, if you are making meetings, if you are sponsoring guys, if you're calling your sponsor, you're doing step work on yourself.
Yeah.
You talked about character defects.
I have a little card that I keep in my phone case. And one side of my card is character defects.
Those are all your character defects.
These are just character defects in general. Most of them I have and I am currently working on. And then the flip side of it, which is the side that I keep facing me, is character assets.
Ooh, the opposite.
Character defects: anger, anxiety, arrogance, bigotry, conceit, dishonesty, egotist, false pride, fear, frustration, hatred, jealousy, inadequacy, impatience, intolerance, laziness, profanity, remorse, resentment, revenge, selfishness, self-pity, self-seeking, worry. The bottom of it says condemnation of others. Then you flip it, our character assets: acceptance, achievement, adequacy, ambition, charity, compassion, courage, forgiveness, honesty, humility, kindness, love, modesty, open-mindedness, patience, penitence, serenity, spirituality, tolerance, tranquility, trust, truthfulness, big one for me, unselfishness, big one for me, wisdom, and the bottom of it, in big words, consideration of others. And I think my biggest realization in this 2 years and 4 months that I've been sober is it's not just for me anymore. It's not just about not drinking, drugging, or gambling. It's how I deal with my emotions and my character defects, because they're always going to be there. I don't care if you're in the program for 35 million years, your character defects will always be there. But in sobriety and in recovery, we work on turning them from defects into assets, and the assets overpower the defects. And, bro, I'm 2 years, 4 months sober. I'm working at the family business. It's not easy at times, and I get angry and I get self-righteous and I get impatient. And this go around, I'm practicing how to deal with those emotions. And some of it is just like calling my dad and venting to my dad, who's a third party in the family business. He's not involved. And just like, how do I fucking navigate this? Or calling my sponsor or calling friends in the program, being like, yo, I'm spiraling out right now in anger, frustration, self-righteousness. Talk me off the ledge. Like, I'm not going to drink, but like, talk me off the ledge. I don't like feeling like this. And having like a 20-minute phone call with someone in the middle of the day, and then going to put my AirPods in and doing a quick 60, 90-second meditation on my app that I have, and then moving on with my day. And like consciously waking up in the morning, knowing that like I'm filled with anger and resentment right now. God, please remove this anger and resentment from me and help me be of use to you today. Show me the way, show me love and tolerance, show me patience. Like, Jesus is my higher power. I'm like, Jesus, I trust in thee. And that's it. Simple. But like, I've noticed that since I've started doing that more regularly, I'd say the last like 6 to 8 months, I've really been doing my daily shit. Like, it's working, bro. I don't think about, I'm not like, I've been boiled the last month. Like, I've been boiling, and I let it out with my peers in program with me. And I don't think about wanting to go and burn my life down over it anymore. And like, if I like say something today that I regret, like, I'm like, like, now I go make an amends and I go apologize. And like, it is what it is. I'm not perfect. No one's perfect, but it's really about being a better human being to those around you. And, you know, I have a 15-month-old baby and a beautiful fiance at home.
Beautiful family.
It's about being better for them.
Yeah.
And it's not so much about like, am I going to make my mom proud? Am I going to make my dad proud? Like,
you're an adult.
I'm an adult, bro. Like, I have a real life human being who's like looking at me and copying everything I do. I came home last night, I took off my shoes. He's walking over and trying to put my shoes on.
Yeah.
You know, like, I like look at my shoe and I say, when you're in daddy's shoes, he look at me and goes, shoe. You know, so if I'm angry and filled with resentment all the time, like, this kid's going to grow up an angry little resentful human being that, you know, I have the chance because of recovery and sobriety to like break this chain, this generational curse that's caused so much turmoil in my family, my dad's family specifically. And like, that's the pride that like I'm trying to hold on to right now. And like, that's like the purpose that I have, is that like, I have a chance to truly break a generational curse. 3-4 generations of my family has been tormented by addiction. It's ravaged my dad's family. And, you know, going back to what I said earlier, my dad and I, the last like really like 3 or 4 years, have really connected over my sobriety. And he's opened up to me about the turmoil that addiction has caused for him growing up in his house with his parents. And it's like, dude, now it's like, now's the time. What better time? I'm 31 tomorrow, and I'm a little over 2 years sober. I just joined Gamblers Anonymous, you know, almost 6 months ago. I have financial amends I'm making due to my gambling. But I'm living in recovery 100% now for the first time ever. Because like, if I wasn't drinking and drugging, I was gambling. Sometimes worse than others, but if I wasn't, you know, or if I wasn't gambling, I was drinking and drugging. There's never been a period of my time where I've had 100% of the pie 2 feet in the middle of that sobriety circle or that sobriety triangle, you know?
So you have a lot of great things in your life, and you have built this sober life. You've built back the relationships with your family, friends. You have a child now. Let's talk a little bit about the dark side of addiction. Let's go back to like 2015. You're in college. You take that first Xanax. Where does life go from there?
I was in second semester of my freshman year of college. Took a Xanax. I went from taking 0.5 milligrams of Xanax to fast forward 3 months later, I'm taking 20 milligrams of Xanax a day.
That's a real addict. Yeah, I love it.
Love it. I wake up, take 2 sticks, start my day, hit my bowl. I'd sign up for classes, and then I'd withdraw from classes and then pocket the refund from that my mom was paying for my tuition so I could fuel my drug addiction, bro. It was, as soon as I started the drugs, it was like, how can I lie and manipulate to just get money to pay for it? And I had this dream, this grand dream, that I was going to build my empire off of being an addict and drinking and drugging and gambling. And I could just gamble and make money from gambling and pay for my drugs and just party and
Live life.
Yeah, I'm gonna own nightclubs and I can party in my nightclubs and everyone's gonna come to my nightclubs because everyone, everyone loves me and everyone thinks I'm a good time. It's like, no, actually everyone fucking hated me, but everyone used me. And I pulled out of my second semester freshman year of college at GW, came home, got put into intensive outpatient where I met you. We were in the same group together.
So this is like 2013.
It was 2013.
Okay.
And I went back to college about a year later. I took my first semester off of sophomore year, stayed home. Then I went back second semester of sophomore year. And I was like, okay, I can't do Xanax anymore, but I could do everything else. And like my parents were like, yeah, he's kids in college. Like he's going to drink and he's going to smoke pot. We're fine with that as long as he's not doing hard drugs. And so I had this like sober coach, I had this therapist who I'd see once a week and he'd make me pee in a cup to make sure I wasn't popping for Xanax or any like opiate or barbiturates or anything like that. And, I would say March of my sophomore year against this crazy bar fight. I get knocked out, my face stomped on, my face all fucked up. I get sent to the hospital. I woke up in the hospital. It was like, I was fully knocked out, my face stomped on, fractured cheekbone, fully collapsed nose. It was bad. And obviously I was prescribed a bunch of pills, oxys and Percocets. And I remember taking them and enjoying them. And I remember my head thinking like, I'm home, I'm back in New York and like my face is all mangled and I'm just like popping, like it says like take one oxy every 4 hours or whatever it was. I'm like taking 3 every hour. And I just remember being like, oh, this is so nice. And like go back to school my junior year. And I'm like, yeah, I could basically do everything except Xanax at this point. My freshman year, my first semester of junior year, one of my best friends at the time passed away from an accidental overdose.
What had happened?
Listen, we partied. We did everything.
Were you with him the night he passed away?
No.
Okay. No. So you got a call.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was with him. I wasn't with him when
he actually passed.
Yeah.
But you were with him that night.
The whole night. We went out, we partied, we were doing drugs together all night, drinking together. 3 a.m. he went to someone else's house. 3 a.m. I went home. And the next morning I woke up and my friend's like, yeah, like, you heard he went to the hospital. I was like, what are you talking about? So I started making calls, no one's answering. So I wind up calling his mother and his mother picks up the phone and I'm like, hey, I heard so-and-so went to the hospital. Is everything okay? Where is he? She's hysterically crying. And I remember just like, bro, like my heart just fucking sank to my stomach. And she was like, yeah, like he's dead. I was like fully like just fucking collapsed on the floor. And was just like, it was like dizzying and really like you're disoriented. You don't know what's going on. And at the time I'm 20, about to turn 21. And you just start to think, you're like, what? It's like the first time it was the first time in my life that I had experienced death or loss around me where I was fully able to comprehend, or it was like a tragic loss. Like I had lost my dad's dad when I was in 8th grade, but my dad's dad died from stage 4 lung cancer, and you watched the man suffer and kind of wither away. And when he passed, you were almost like, you understood. He was an old man. He was very sick, and you just understood the concept of it. And then this was my friend passing away tragically from an overdose, was an accidental overdose, was like, that was when you came to terms with like tragedy, trauma. you know, and then you spiral down. It should have been me. I did the same amount of drugs as he did. Why did he, you know, I'm a piece of shit. I don't deserve to be here. He was such a good person, good kid. He deserves to be here. So that kind of started it. That was in September. You know, my parents like, oh, are you okay? Like, you want therapy? I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. It's good. Blah, blah, blah. Like the whole week of his funeral, I'm snorting Oxycontin in the bathroom. You know, after he just died from an accidental overdose from Oxycontin and cocaine, I'm snorting Roxy's that whole week. I continue snorting Roxy's for the next 6 months. That was in September. Fast forward to March, I get arrested. I stole a purse from a nightclub in New York City.
Walk us through that night. You're out at the club. What club were you at?
Marquee.
You were at, oh my God. Yeah. A lot of bad shit happens there. So you're at Marquee. You're with your friends.
At this time, I was in a lot of pain. It was about 6-7 months since my friend had passed away, and I was just doing a lot of drugs in silence and dealing with a lot of emotions that I had bottled up. And bro, every time I was going out, I was taking Xanax again. I was drinking until blackout, doing every drug known to mankind, Oxy, Xanax. And it was the first night of spring break. And dude, I was just fucked up. I took someone's purse. I left. The cops were outside, undercover cops. They see me with a purse. Oh, yeah, whose purse is that? Oh, it's my girlfriend's. I'm like, okay, what's her name? They open up the bag, they look at the woman's ID, and they're like, that's not the name. Let me see some ID. I hand them my fake ID. A bag of Coke falls out of my wallet. Oh my God. I get arrested. And then I get blasted all over the New York Post, Daily News, Daily Mail, Rosanna Scotto's son, you know, charged with, you know, felony charges, stealing a purse, fake ID, and, you know, bag of cocaine. And,
yeah, that doesn't look good at all. You know what the crazy thing is? Listen, I get it. It's like for the listener too right now. I get it. I used to just do dumb shit. Like snatching a purse sounds like it was like intentional, pre-med, like you were going there to snatch a purse or something like that. But I get it. When you're on Xanax, you don't even fucking know what's going on. You just grabbed it just for shits and giggles and walked out.
I was not planning on stealing that purse when I got there. Right. And then when I'm like leaving to go home, I just decide that this purse is over my jacket. I'm taking it with me.
Yeah.
Like for what, bro? For what? I know. To this day, it's been 11 years. To this day, I do not have an answer for myself or anybody for that matter as to why I took that purse that night. There was no reason. I didn't need money. I didn't need a Chanel purse. I didn't.
Did you even have a girlfriend at the time?
I did. I did. She wasn't there actually. She was in fucking Dominican Republic on spring break.
Yeah.
And dude, it's just crazy. And
you go. So wait, you went to where, the Tombs?
No,
dude, isn't that where Diddy was?
They took me to the precinct, and then they started going through my wallet and seeing all these PBA cards, and they connected the dots that my mom is Rosanna Scotto and blah blah blah. And so I hear them. I'm in the cell in the precinct, and it's like probably 4 or 5 hours after, and I'm starting to like sober up a little bit, and they're like, I hear them on the phone like, yeah, we got Rosanna's son here. He fucking stole a purse, got Coke on him, a fake ID, whatever. They took me to the Tombs. I sat in the Tombs for about 24 hours. I saw a judge. I got released to my lawyer and my father. My lawyer is like basically my uncle. He's family. He's my protector. And we sat in the courthouse for a little bit after. My dad's just looking at me like my dad's about to rip my head off. And my lawyer, who's like my uncle, he's like, yo, he's like, just tell me what's going on. He's like why? And I'm like, I don't fucking know. I was drugged out. He's like, yeah, but there's got to be a reason why. I'm like, I don't know. I don't have one. I'm an idiot. And he was like, all right, listen, like, go home. I'm going to call you tomorrow. Come to the office. We got to figure this out. Obviously, we got to talk. We leave. I go home. My mom's freaking out. My mom's yelling at me, throwing slippers at me. I go to sleep that night. I'm like so happy to be home and in my bed, not in the Tombs. And I wake up the next morning and I hear my mom yelling on the phone. I'm all over the New York Post, Daily News, everything. And like just have caused complete and utter embarrassment, disappointment, shame to my whole entire family. And I remember just feeling so alone, bro. And so embarrassed. Like, why? And like I have people texting me who I haven't spoken to in years, kids in high school, old teachers of mine. And they're like, are you okay? I kept getting this text message like, hey, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. They're like, okay, just like wanted to make sure, like, keep your head up, you know? And it's like, looking back on it, like I remember like being like, all these people text me like, are you okay? And that's really what it was. Like, I was just not okay, you know? And, you know, that case led to me being on probation for a year. I had to go to another program, drug program, pee clean for a year, show up 5 days a week, group therapy. And, that was the year I was talking about earlier. I was just like, if you just, my life was great. My life was getting so good and people were so happy and my family was so happy. They're like, okay, you're a young kid. You made a bad mistake. Like, it's going to be okay. You know, you're an addict. And I'm like, the whole time, I'm like, I'm not a fucking addict. I'm just an idiot. You know?
You're 20, 21.
Yeah, I'm 21.
It's tough for
just turned 21.
It's tough because at that age, you're like, well, did I just experiment too hard, right? This is culture in the US, drinking, doing drugs. Like, a lot of people do this, especially when you go away to college. Everyone's doing Xanax. Everyone's smoking weed. Everyone's drinking. People are doing coke. And it's like, I got into trouble too. I was always able to kind of dodge out of it. And, you know, it's very confusing at that age. And that's what makes it harder to get sober and stay sober. And that year, were you completely sober that year?
I was completely sober for that year. And then the year ended and
off to the races again.
Hello, I'm back, baby.
Did you do any work on yourself during that year? You were just, it was fear. It was because you were on probation. You didn't want to get in trouble and reoffend.
And the IOP that I was going to, they were like, you have to go to AA meetings. And I was going to AA, getting my slip signed and then leaving. Or I was just forging the signatures. And, dude, I didn't want it, man. It wasn't bad enough for me yet. I didn't think I was an addict. And that year ended and I was off to the races. I was hanging out towards the end of that year. I was hanging out with this kid, who loved to party, always had hot girls with him, but was also a nutcase, but I loved the chaos. So we hung out, whatever.
You knew this guy from growing up?
No, I knew him through a friend of a friend, a family friend.
Got it. Introduced you and then you started hanging out with him.
The year ended. Now I'm off to the races. And now I run it out for another 6 months. I'm snorting 900 milligrams of Oxycontin. Within like the year ended, within 3 months, I'm back to snorting 900 milligrams of Oxy a day. And as you know, as an opiate user, former opiate user, you build a tolerance to those things super quick. It didn't start, I didn't just year ended and then I just started doing 900 a day. You know, it was like, I'm going to take one blue here, one blue there. And then next thing you know, you wake up one day and you're dope 6 and now you're doing half a blue in the morning just to feel normal. And then afternoon, you're getting dope.
It builds quick, man.
It builds really, really quick. And long story short, after that year ended, I'm hanging out with this kid a lot. We're doing a lot of drugs and he murders someone. And
walk us through what happened. To the best of your ability that you can speak on it. What happened the day that he murdered someone?
So this was November of 2016. My case ended in April of 2016.
So you're off probation.
I'm off probation, April 2016. I'm partying all summer. We're going hard. Me and this kid, Jimmy, we're fucking ripping up the Hamptons, dude. Raging, having a great time.
Spoiled fucking brats.
Yep. Yep. Straight up. Super entitled, super spoiled. The worst possible combination. And November of 2016, he murders someone, and
how did he murder someone?
He stabbed a kid. I don't know the whole story, bro. Like I really don't.
Well,
to
you
this
don't know
day.
factual.
I don't know factually the whole story. Long story short, they had an after party at his house. This random kid they met at the club came back. Jimmy and his friend got into a fight with the kid in his apartment. They beat him up, and then Jimmy stabbed him. They rolled his body up in a comforter, threw it out his window. They drove the body from New York to New Jersey, and then they buried the body in Jersey.
Okay.
And
where did you come into this?
So at that time, I hadn't really been hanging out with Jimmy as much. We kept in touch. He'd call me. I was like kind of not hanging out with him because it was just too much. And at that point, bro, I was like really heavy into oxys. Like I wasn't going out much anymore. I was just like holing up in my apartment, snoring oxys, taking oxys. Like I didn't want to be outside, you know? And he calls me and he's like, hey, I need to talk to you, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, whatever, whenever you want, you know. Long story short, he comes to the gym. This is about a day after he murders a kid. I'm at the gym. He comes to the gym, pulls me to the locker room, confesses the whole murder to me. Not going to talk specifics, but basically, I didn't believe him. And I left the gym. And I'm like, this fucking kid will say anything for attention. Like, he's just fucking crazy, dude. He's crazy. The next day, I'm walking in New York. I'm walking to the gym. And I'm like, I'm going to walk by his block. I'm like, let's see what's going on. He murdered someone. There's going to be some type of police activity outside of his apartment. I look down his block. There's NYPD crime unit trucks. The block is taped off. There's fucking dogs. And so now I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, oh, this is fucked. This is fucked. So I stay and I see the NYPD crime unit guys in the hazmat, you know, like the white suits wheeling out his Louis Vuitton luggage bags. I know those are his bags. Like no one else has those fucking Louis Vuitton.
Flamboyant Louis Vuitton. Yeah.
So now I'm like, dude, mentally I'm not okay already because of all the oxys I'm sniffing. So I call my mom in a panic and I'm like, Jimmy murdered someone. He confessed the whole murder to me. And my mom's like, what the fuck are you talking about? My mom's like, get home right now. So
your mom must have been like, what the fuck?
Dude, so I get home and I'm telling them everything. We obviously call my dad's partner. He's like, listen, just sit tight. I'm on my way. I'm coming over. And it's like 6 o'clock. ABC News, 6 o'clock comes on the TV in the kitchen where we're all sitting. And this whole story comes right up. Missing kid from Connecticut. Blah, 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 blah. Last seen at this apartment. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, they still haven't found the body. And now I'm like, holy shit. Like, this is super fucked up. Anyways, the kid that was friends with Jimmy that killed and helped conceal the body wound up confessing that night, telling the cops where the body was. And, you know, he said, Jimmy did it. Jimmy said, Larry did it. Mm-hmm. That's not up to me. I don't care. And they arrested both of them. And that was November of 2016. I went to rehab. I went to inpatient treatment for the first time, December 7th of 2016. So about a month later, I had been shipped off to Arizona to go to treatment. And
Sierra Tucson?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Great place. Really great place. I'm in Sierra Tucson for about 45 days. Then they shipped me out to California, to Los Angeles, to go to sober living. And night one in sober living, bro, FBI comes knocking on the sober living door and subpoenas me for the Jimmy Rackover murder trial because he had texted me after the confession saying shit. So, you know, I was flying back and forth from LA to New York for the next 2.5 years, meeting with the district attorney in Manhattan about my testimony. And long story short, I had to testify against him at a trial. It was a very public trial. It was all over the news. Just the story itself was all over the news. And then to add me, my mom, and, you know, I had to get on the stand and I had to talk about my drug addictions. I had to talk about stealing money from my parents to fuel my addiction. I had to talk about other slimy, dirty shit that I did in addiction because
the defense attorney was calling you out on all this shit to ruin your credibility, right?
Correct. And the crazy part about it is that, like, you know, Jimmy knew all of my deepest, darkest secrets because he was my homie for so long. So he had already told all of his lawyer, ask him this. And his lawyer was probably saying, like, give me all the shit that you know about Lewis so we can fucking rip him to shreds on the stand. But the prosecution and I had been meeting, and they asked me the majority of those questions already. So the prosecution had asked me, did you ever steal money from your family to fuel your drug addiction? Yes. How would you do that? I would take money out of my mom's purse or whatever it was, you know? And so I had to be honest about everything in this public forum, which, like, bro, you know how hard that was to A, not be there for the murder, B, I had nothing to fucking do with it. I wasn't even there that night. I wasn't even hanging out with them at the club before that. And to be roped into that, and then to have my dirty laundry aired out in public, and every article on Google about me is about the murder trial, my drug addiction, stealing from my family, you name it. And, you know, that trial happened in 2018. And it's like, bro, that shit has followed me for the last 7 years. It's followed me, you know, and part of the reason why I'm doing my podcast is to A, tell my side of the story, but B, bring awareness to addiction in itself and where it takes people of all races, creeds, religions, financial backgrounds, poor, rich, middle, up, sideways, left, right, whatever.
Zero discrimination.
Zero discrimination, bro. And, you know, I'll say it right now. There was a lot of shit that wasn't written about me that's not public. That's way worse than what they wrote about me. They never wrote about all of the times I was alone in a motel room, smoking meth, wanting to fucking kill myself, and thinking about what my family would say at my funeral. Oh, man. They didn't write about that. And they only wrote about making it look like I was some entitled, privileged kid that just thought the rules didn't apply to me, which, like, there is a part of that is true. Mm. But the larger part that's true, more true for me, was that I was just an addict, bro. I just wanted to get high. Mm. And I didn't care what was in my way or what I had to do to get that done. So, you know, listen, I've been through fucking hell and back. And there's a lot that happened between then and now for me to be in sobriety of nothing public. But I've struggled mightily between 2000 and really 2020 up until 2023. I was in and out. Ended up in Colombia for 3 months in a drug psychosis. Refused to get sober. Lost a really good job I had due to my addictions. And then in January 23rd, 2023, I finally waved the white flag, bro. Surrendered.
Can you walk us through the last 30 days of using and how you got to a place where you were able to surrender?
So I'm working at this restaurant. I'm the general manager of this restaurant. I'd been drinking and using, gambling, but I hadn't been like, everything looked good on the outside. I'm in good shape. The clients love me. The owners of the restaurants love me and trust me. And I'm like really doing a nice job of running this restaurant, but I'm fucking drinking and doing coke every day. And my family was going away from Christmas Eve until January 1st. They were going away on a nice vacation. I told my mom, I said, listen, I said, for me, I have to make a sacrifice and stay home and work. The owners of the restaurant will really respect me if I do that. My mom was like, no problem. In my mind, I'm like, whatever. It's one fucking Christmas vacation. And about 2 weeks before that, I got fired because of my drinking and drugging. And I'm home alone on Christmas and New Year's, and my family's in Anguilla, living La Vida Loca. And my mom and my dad are fucking devastated, dude. I had ruined yet again another holiday. Ruined, bro. And it was like, it was so shocking because everything on the outside seemed so good, you know? And I'm home and I'm just like, it was the first time that I was like really devastated because I had worked so hard the last couple of years to build this profession and this respect and trust I had earned from people around me. And it was the first time it wasn't like something wasn't handed to me with that. And I was so devastated. And I remember just being like, I'm going to go back to LA in the new year. That's where my sober community was. It's where I really only knew sober people. And I said, I'm just going to try AA, the AA way, not my way.
No impatient.
Bro, my mom was like, I have
this place.
Bro, she's like, I'm over $1 million in the hole with you in treatment centers. You don't fucking listen to anyone. You don't listen to me. You don't listen to therapy. You don't listen to that. She's like, do me a favor. Go to LA. I'll pay for your flights. I'm not giving you any money. I was on New York State unemployment. I was getting $300 a week. Figure it out. I had a scholarship to a treatment center out there. I got out there January 8th. I'm drinking and drugging this whole time still. Got out there January 8th. I was supposed to go in January 10th. So I'm drinking and drugging until January 10th. Like, why would I not, you know?
Yeah, of course.
And
run the table, baby.
Run the table. They call me on the 9th. Oh, your bed's moved back to the 15th. I'm like, okay, no problem. Whatever.
Great.
I'm going to drink 7 more days. And long story short, bro, they kept pushing my bed back. So finally,
it's the worst fucking thing they could do for an addict, dude. It's ridiculous.
So January 22nd, I'm staying with my ex-girlfriend at the time, who was kind enough to let me sleep on her couch. And she was like, listen, I can't do this. You want to stay here? Fine. You got to get sober. I'll let you use my car. I'll help buy you groceries. You could stay here, but if you're not going to be sober, you got to get out. And I was like, in my mind, I remember just being like, yo, like literally everyone is sick of my shit. Everyone. And it was like, okay, I don't need treatment to get sober, bro. Been to treatment 100 times. I should own a treatment center at this point. Like, I needed to shut my fucking mouth, listen, take advice, and do what was asked of me by people who have multiple years, decades of sobriety, whose lives I admire and respect. And January 23rd, I woke up. I said, I'm done. And I went to 4, 5, 6 AA meetings a day for a while, for about the first 90 days. And I got my sponsor, like the first week, someone introduced me to him. And he gave me a sheet of paper. He said, here are these simple things I ask you. Here's a phone list. I want you to start calling 3 people on the phone list every day. I'm like, why? I don't know these people. What am I going to say? You know? And he was like, he literally looked at me, he was like, just shut up and do it or find another sponsor. I was like, all right, dude, I'll do it. Started calling people every day. Hey, Kev, my name's Lewis. I got 2 days sober. I went to that Tuesday night VRC meeting. You'll see me around. Like, I'm serious about my sobriety, like blah, blah, blah. And everyone was like, oh, nice to hear from you, dude. Yeah, like let's stay in touch, blah, blah, blah. What that did over the next 3 months was I found my people. I created best friends and a community that I can call any of those guys now at any time of the day and they'll drop everything to be there for me.
Wow.
And I prayed, I meditated, I kept going to meetings. I worked steps immediately with my sponsor. And like my 4th step, I wrote everything. I wrote everything. Everything that I could remember, I wrote on that paper of anyone I've wronged. And I made my amends. And most of my amends today, bro, are living amends. You know, like I went to a lot of people and made those approaches and they're like, yeah, like I know you're sorry. You've been sorry the last 10 years. Prove it to me. Like my parents specifically. My mom's like, I know you're sorry. My mom didn't talk to me for 4 months, by the way. Did not talk to me. I was talking to her through my dad.
Yeah.
And it was the best thing ever for me. It was the best thing ever to be cut off and just have to survive for myself and not be comfortable and be super uncomfortable and dig deep and find who I really was. And then life got really good. Life got really big. Me and my ex-girlfriend at the time, I get back together. She's like, you're a changed man. And like, yeah, there was a lot of change, but, you know, there's still a lot of work to be done. You know, 6 months ago, I came down into Gamblers Anonymous and had a surrender down there, and having to do that when you have like, you know, 21 months of sobriety and humble yourself again and say, fucking please help me. And, you know, it's a journey, bro. It's a journey. And what I've learned in my journey is that like, I'm no better than anybody else. My dad always told me, you put your pants on the same way everyone else does. You're no better than anyone. You're no worse than anyone. And, to have that humility and to balance it with my charisma and use my charisma not to manipulate people to get what I want, but to create a positive impact in those around me is where my sobriety journey currently is. And like I said, like going back to the defects and turning into assets, and like when shit pops up on my defects, like immediately addressing it and like calling somebody and dropping like this ego of like, I'm a macho man. Like I'm going to handle my anger all by myself, and I'm going to handle my envy all by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And like to drop all that and pick up the phone and be like, yo, Kev, I'm fucking spinning today, dude. And 10 out of 10 times, the person on the other line is like, oh, dude, I'm 20 years sober. I've been there. Yeah, I was there yesterday.
That always happens. That always happens.
You know, and like, you're just like, it's like instant relief, bro. This program and, you know, the steps, like they work and they do provide way more relief. And like, I don't live in guilt and shame anymore. I live in like acceptance of what I've done and the people I've hurt and the harm I've caused. And I live in the now, which is like, the past is my teacher, and I can use that to fuel my present. And like, I can't predict tomorrow, bro. We could be dead tomorrow. The asteroid could come and wipe us all out tomorrow. But for me, it's like, stay sober, no matter what. Don't drink or drug. Keep it simple. And be honest. Be honest about everything. Even when it may hurt somebody, I'd rather be honest today than to lie. And then 6 months later, like, oh, why are you lying about that? You know, it's not about the drinking, the drugging, and the gambling anymore. I'm far enough away from that, but it's now about correcting the behaviors that cause me to drink, drug, and gamble.
One of the most powerful things in my process when getting sober was making amends. That was a huge game changer for me because I was so selfish. I was a piece of shit. And once I started to make, that's like big boy recovery. Once you start to make amends. For you, was there a specific amends that you made that was really a game changer for you in your sobriety?
With my fiance, Mia, my now fiance, Mia, because I was living on her couch. And about 30 days into sobriety, we had broken up and I had to move out and go stay on another friend's couch. And dude, she loved me so much, but I had done so much dirt to her in the years before that because of my addiction. And she just like couldn't trust her. Like, you're 30 days sober and like, you want me to just fucking forgive you for everything? Like, it doesn't work like that. Like, you have to show me. And I remember we were like broken up for like 2 or 3 weeks. And I remember just being like, I want one more chance to show this girl like who I truly think I am in recovery. And if it doesn't work out after that, then like I can walk away from this and like maybe it just is not the right fit. And we got back together. She gave me another chance. And I remember her saying to me, she's just like, this is it though. Like, you drink again, like I'm out. There's no discussion. There's no manipulating me that you're okay. Like, I'm out. I'm done. And I was like, okay, deal. And now fast forward, where we are today, she always like reminds me like how proud she is of me. And like, even like this like last gambling, relapse. And she's like, I feel like you're at where you are with your gambling is where you were when you got sober 2.5 years ago. Like, I know, I see the work that you're putting in. She's like, I'm just so proud of you. Like, she's like, you always, whether it's self-inflicted or not, you always beat yourself down, but you always rise from the ashes. You always get back up and you never quit and you never give up. And like, bro, Kev, that's what it's about, bro.
Dude, I'm like tearing up, man.
Dude.
That's like so.
Kev, for anybody that's watching this, that's suffering from addiction, or bro, it could be anything. It could be fucking cancer. It could be whatever. I don't know. It could be anything. Yesterday is not today. Every day you have a new chance to fight again. And it's not about, bro, I've gotten knocked down millions of times. And every time I'm just like, I got to keep going. I got to keep trying. And now for me, it's like, I know I'm going to get knocked down again, but it's not going to be from drugs, alcohol, or gambling. My knockdown may be life circumstance that could happen to anybody, not self-inflicted, but you just got to keep fighting, bro. This world is a fucked up place, and it doesn't stop for anybody. It doesn't stop for your feelings or how you feel. Are you sad? Are you tired? No, it's dog eat dog world, bro. And I got a kid. I got Mia. There's no more giving up. Give up is not an option. There's no surrender. It's just surrendering to my addictions and understanding that if I surrender to that, anything is possible. As Kevin Garnett once said, anything is possible.
Well, let me ask you a question. So you started gambling in sobriety. How did you get to a point in your sobriety where you made the decision to pick up gambling?
I had just owed so much money. It was like an insurmountable debt.
When you got sober?
Yeah.
Okay, so you were going into sobriety from drugs and alcohol already in debt.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of guilt and shame hanging over your head.
Yeah. The gambling wasn't like, I'm not like I bet $500. I'm like gambling like 10s, 20s, 30s, 40s, thousands of dollars. That doesn't make any sense, but you get the point.
And did you have this money?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Oh my God.
I'm a compulsive gambler.
I know. I hear you, bro. Same.
I'm a compulsive gambler, bro. And
I'd be in debt doing the same shit.
listen, I'm in a lot of debt right now. And it's not to any banks or institutions or anybody like that. It's to family. It's to friends. It's to ex-coworkers. And all of them, I'm on payment plans with everyone, and all of them have said the same thing to me. You are your own worst enemy.
Mm-hmm.
You have so much to offer, but you get caught up in this. And that's the kind of the misunderstanding from normal people to addicts. It's like, true. Yes, that's true. But also at the same time, like, I'm sick and unwell when I'm gambling or drinking or drugging. Like, I'm unwell, and there's only one solution. It's a spiritual solution, and it's a daily reprieve. It's daily work. It's, as you know, bro, we got to do 10 times more work on a daily basis to just be normal than a person without
Yeah, of course.
addiction, you know?
Of course.
But someone else once said to me, 1 hour meeting a day is like, it's like 4% of your day. It's like, wouldn't you just do 4% work, 4% of your day, so you can have the other 96% of your day be amazing?
Even your sleep.
Dude. Yeah, because when you're in addiction,
I'm not sleeping.
I'm not sleeping, dude. And when I am sleeping, I'm thinking about how big of a piece of shit I am, and who's coming after me the next day for this, for that. And the gambling was very humbling. It was humbling because it was in sobriety. But when I gave up the drugs and alcohol, the gambling was like that last thing that I was like holding on to.
You filling the void with.
I was filling the void with. And bro, I'm 6 months out from gambling. I haven't been in this head like this decades. Like, I'm thinking clearly, I'm present, I'm focused. I enjoy what I'm doing. And like, I remember like a couple months ago, I had this realization. I'm like, holy shit, I have so much fucking free time right now that I'm not gambling, to like focus on the restaurant and improving things at the restaurant and
launching your podcast,
launching the podcast,
to help other people. That's what you're doing. You're sharing your story, dude. Part of long-term sobriety and how you achieve that is helping the next person in need.
Correct.
And that's what you're doing today.
Dude, you know what's crazy is
that selfish addict is helping people today.
That's the only way. That's what they say. Like, I have a friend who has been in and out of sobriety. He had like 6 years, and then he went out, and he's been struggling the last 4 years. Like, he'll put together 30 days and go back out, and then another 2 months and go back out. And he's now got like 9 months, longest he's been sober since the 6 years. And he's like, I have the best sponsor ever. And I'm like, what's like, why is this different? He's like, they met, and he's literally like, go get a sponsee. It's like, you've been around the program long enough. We're going to do the steps together. Go take another human being through the steps right now. That is the only fucking way you will ever stay sober, is by helping another addict or alcoholic. It's the only way. Addiction is self-seeking and dishonest. That's like the biggest two pillars of what our disease is. And so to get out of that is to help another human being. And, you know, the podcast for me is, I hope someone watches it and is like, you know, oh shit, if this kid got through that, I can get through this. Or I'm going to DM him or email him and ask for some advice. And hopefully I can give some sound advice that like helps someone who's just struggling, bro. Like, this fucking gambling thing is crazy. You got LeBron James and Kevin Hart, multi-gazillionaires, advertising gambling on television. Like, kids, I know kids who are 16 in high school who are fucking hammering 6-leg parlays in class on their phone, fucking $50 parlays. I'm like, this gambling is going to be the next fentanyl.
It's a problem.
Gambling is going to be the next fentanyl. You're going to have doctors, lawyers, Wall Street bankers, executives, janitors, porters, garbage men, doormen, waiters, servers, managers. You're going to have all these people who have never gambled. And they see LeBron James, oh yeah, sign up for DraftKings, $1,000 risk-free. We'll match your deposit. They're going to play. They're going to lose. They're going to chase. They're going to steal money. They're going to take the mortgage money. They're going to take this money. They're going to take the kids' college money. People are going to go to jail. People are going to kill themselves. Compulsive gambling leads to insanity, institutions, or death. And you don't know you're a compulsive gambler. It just happens. Same thing as an addict. You don't know you're an addict until that invisible line is crossed. It's not like you get symptoms and you get sick and then you go to the doctor and the doctor, looking in your eyes, looking in your ears and like, open up. Oh yeah, you're an addict. No, bro. No. And sometimes for people, it's too late. And as a compulsive gambler, we're in a very, very scary time. We're in a very, very scary time. And I fucking hate it. I fucking hate it. We're preying on people and they're demons for profit. And it's like everyone knows drugs are bad, right? We're not like advertising fentanyl on TV to live a positive life or for entertainment purposes. We are advertising gambling for entertainment purposes and for fun with athletes and celebrities that young children look up to.
Glorifying it.
It's like you don't see any advertisements of fucking Jennifer Lopez smoking Marlboros. Like, yeah, smoke a Marlboro. It's cool. We don't see that.
It's capital at the end of the day. They're getting paid to do it. People will do anything if they're getting paid for it.
Yeah.
If you could go back to the second grade Lewis who stole his friend's pencil case, that scared Lewis, young, what piece of advice would you give to that Lewis?
Oh, what piece of advice would I give to that Lewis? I would tell that Lewis that he's enough, that he's loved and he's supported, and that he can accomplish anything he wants in life. And yeah, I don't know if I'd tell him anything about addiction. He was a little too young to be talking about the addiction.
Just have patience and it'll all come together for you.
Yeah.
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 It's a beautiful thing.
Dude, I love you.
I love you too, man. I'm so happy that you were able to come on here and we were able to make this happen. And, you mean a lot to me, not only on a personal level, but even in sobriety. And I respect you. I respect your journey, your family, and your story is going to help a lot of people. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. And I just want to say that Kevin, while he may have had a lot of character defects, I would say that Kevin he channels acceptance, achievement, ambition, charity, since I'm the charity case, compassion, courage, honesty, humility, a lot of kindness, a lot of love, definitely patient if he's working with me, serenity on most days, spirituality all the time, tolerance, trust. He's very trustworthy. That's for sure. Unselfishness, a lot of wisdom, and he has a lot of consideration of others. So if you're watching this, Kevin is the man.
Thank you, brother.
Hit that subscribe
It's not
button.
like that every single day, but
Most days, bro.
we try our best to live up to those standards.
Most days.
Because we hold ourselves to a very high standards in sobriety.
Yes,
So,
we do.
Lewis, thank you very much, brother.
Thank you, bro.